In this video, we're going to look at the default presets that come with Teragon. As of version 0.50 in Teragon, there are 5 main presets, as well as a preview preset. Each of these presets give you a different style of map, and depending on which kind of style you prefer, you can use that preset as a base for making your own presets. In the first preset, World Generator 1, you get a square map with water around the edges, rivers going through the map, and a crater in the center of the map. If you want to, you can remove the water around the edge of the map. By default, the preset does not include the wasteland biome, but you can add it to the preset if you like. The mountains on this preset are rough, which will make it difficult to drive on, but it does make for some interesting looking mountains. If we go to 3D preview, you'll be able to see how the mountains look and how the rest of the map looks as well, with the river and the crater in the middle of the map. In this example, a POI got placed in the crater, which doesn't always happen. You can see that the mountains cover a good chunk of the map, but you also have a lot of space available for towns and cities. This will give you a good map to start out with, and a good basis to start making your own presets and making adjustments to get the map the way you like. World Generator 2 is a modified version of the first preset. One of the main differences is that this preset will give you more realistic looking coastlines instead of a square map. The seed I used in this example doesn't really show that very well, although you can see how the water can cut into the terrain like this. But I chose to use it because it does make an interesting map, and you can see some of the other features in the preset. Another difference is the mountains are going to be a little bit more smooth. This can make it easier to drive over, although there will still be steep spots that won't be able to be driven on. You can also see that the crater is no longer in the center of the map. It will be randomly placed on your map in a random size. In this example, there's water in the crater, but that won't always be the case depending on your seed. The biomes on this map by default are laid out in a pattern going from wasteland at the south up to snow in the north, while still keeping snow at the tops of the mountains. Another difference in this preset is that rivers can flow through lakes. So if you have a lake on your map, a river can potentially go through that lake rather than going around it. In the first preset, the river would always go around a lake. This can make for some more realistic rivers that flow through lakes that you would not see on the first preset. If we go to the 3D preview, you'll be able to see how the mountains are smoother than on the first preset. You can also see that the rivers are a little bit smoother as well, not quite as steep on the shorelines. And you can see here an example of the cliffs that you can add on. Those are optional if you don't want those there. Over here you can see how the crater looks with water in it. As you can see, this map gives you a good layout for your own presets if you're looking for something with a little bit more realistic coastline and some smoother mountains. The third preset, World Generator 3, is designed to be a very fast map generation compared to the other presets. It does this by removing many commands that the other presets have, such as craters and rivers. This lets you create the map a lot more quickly than in the other presets. As with World Generator 1, this preset has a square outline to it with water around the edges. There are many more mountains on this preset than in the other presets, and it creates kind of a valley effect through the middle that you can drive through that the other presets don't really have. This preset does not have the burnt biome by default, but you can add that in. And you'll see that the mountains are also very smooth, like in World Generator 2, making it easier to drive over them. If we look at the 3D preview, you can see how the mountains are very smooth, that you get these valleys between the mountains where you can drive through to find the different towns and POI. And although this is a more basic preset compared to the other ones, it does give you a faster map generation, and the layout with all the mountains can make for an interesting map to travel through. The fourth preset, World Generator 4, is a mega city preset. It's designed to give you one large city covering the entire map. There's options to have craters and lakes to offer some variation in the map. By default, it uses the forest biome on the entire map, but that's something that you can change. One thing you need to be aware of if using a megacity map is that as of version 1.0 of 7 Days to Die, the initial quest that you get for finding buried supplies can only be given by a trader who's near the wilderness. Because most traders in a mega city are not near wilderness, that creates a problem. One option you have to avoid that problem is to set your spawn points near a trader who's near wilderness. For example, this orange square here is a trader that's near wilderness in the center of the map. Or you could use a trader who's near wilderness on the edges of the map. Another option you can use is to create a mod that will either modify that initial quest so that it doesn't require you to be near the wilderness, or change it so it auto-completes when you first see the trader, or even remove it altogether. Teragon is also looking at ways to make it possible to avoid the issue with Teragon maps, such as adding more wilderness areas into the center areas of the megacities, or by making it possible to set traders to spawn only near wilderness areas. But that's not quite ready to use yet. One other thing to keep in mind with megacities is that a slow computer is going to have a lot of trouble on such a map. So it's recommended that you use this only if the players will all have fast computers. If we look at the 3D preview, you can see what the map looks like. As you can see, it definitely slows down my frame rate. I'm not going to move around too much on this map because of that. You can see it does cover up the entire map. Makes for some interesting gameplay if you like this kind of a map. The fifth preset, World Generator 5, is the most recent preset in Teragon as of the current version. This preset is still being optimized, and so will take much longer than what the other presets take. You can expect it to take around 5 to 6 times longer than the other presets. This is partly due to making individual height maps for each biome in order to give unique terrain in each biome. This map is specifically set up for 9K maps. As of right now, it's not recommended to change the map size from 9K on this preset. Doing so may cause you some problems with getting the map to look right. But if you want to give it a try, you're welcome to do so. As you can see on this preset, it gives you a very realistic terrain around the edges. Makes for an island that looks a lot more realistic than any of the other presets we have right now. Note that the shores are pretty steep and rough. If you were to fall off into the water, you may have trouble getting back out. As mentioned, each biome has unique terrain. As you can see on here, the wasteland biome has craters. The snow biome uses erosion to give you more of a snow look. The desert biome has mesas. The burnt forest biome has spiky mountains to give it more of a dark or spooky type of feeling to it. And the forest biome is what you're probably used to even on the RWG maps. By default, the biomes are set up in a pinwheel, letting you progress from the forest all the way to the wasteland in order of the biome difficulty. This preset also sets the traders to only spawn in the biomes that the game itself is set to use. So for example, only Wrecked will spawn in the forest, only Gen will spawn in the burnt forest, and so on. You can change it if you want to, but it does follow the RWG requirements as of version 1.0. If we take a look at the 3D preview, you can see what the terrain differences look like for each biome. So you can see we've got the craters in the wasteland, different erosion effects to give you more of snow look in the snow biome. We've got mesas in the desert biome. You got the different spiky mountains in the burnt forest. And your normal hills and mountains in the forest. Note that between each biome, the terrain is smoothed out as much as it can be. You can adjust the smoothing using blur settings. That will help the transition to look better. For the most part, it looks good, but you may have some odd shapes if there's any mountains or lakes, craters at that transition point. You can take and try different settings in order to get that to look the way you like. And you'll be able to make a map that uses the same RWG settings for traders, has different style of towns for each biome, and different terrain for each biome. All on a map that has unique terrain features and realistic coastlines. Although this map does take much longer to generate, it can give you a lot more interesting map than the other presets and can be a good starting point for making your own maps. Besides the 5 main presets, there's also a World Previewer and World Previewer 3D preset. These presets are designed to let you import other maps, whether you've made them in Teragon, in the RWG, if you've handcrafted them, or received them from someone else. The only map that cannot currently be loaded is the Navisgain map, because it has some unique features with how it's been designed, so it doesn't currently load. Any other map can be loaded. You can view it in either 2D or 3D, depending which World Previewer you're using, including potentially making changes to the map. Note that some changes may not work too well on a map that's already generated, such as trying to redo roads or redo towns. But other features, such as crevices, can be done, and you can make other changes to the map based on what the map is and what you want to try to do. I'm not showing the preview for the previewer presets because all it is loading up another map. But to use it, all you have to do is put the world name in that you want to load and hit run, and you'll be able to view the preview. After that, if you want to make changes, you can add those changes to the expert tab. Depending on what kind of change you want to make, you need to add those commands to your command queue and be sure that you export whatever those changes are. So if you're making changes to the water map, for example, if you want to just lower the overall water on the map, after importing everything, you can add create flat water map after the import water map command. And then you can set that to a different height than what it was in the original map, and your water level would then be changed. But you need to then export that in order to make sure that it updates the map with those changes. So you would do that with any changes that you're making, whether it's the water map, terrain, roads, towns, and POI. Just make sure that you export everything that you do change. That's everything for the current presets that come with Teragon. There will be more presets added in the future, and these presets may be changed as new commands are added. So what you may see now may look different with the same seed in a future version. If you have any questions or need help, please visit the Chat and Help channel on Teragon's Discord, and someone will be able to help you.